Hi guys, welcome to another Persona 5 video, and in this one I'll be showing you guys some tips on how to get the Passionate Listener trophy. Now, a lot of you have requested this specific one, just a couple tips on how to make it easier to get these lines. So I will give you actually a ton of tips that I tried to gather as I played through the game twice, normal game and new game plus. So in order to earn this trophy, you need to listen to or hear 250 navigation lines from Futaba Sakura. She becomes the navigator of your team after you get her. So these lines can range anywhere from hitting enemy weaknesses and resistances, inflicting status ailments, getting inflicted by status ailments, and having your weaknesses exploited as well. You can also ambush enemies, or whenever you're being ambushed by enemies and running away, and a whole host of other things can happen when for Futaba to deliver a line. So before I talk about what type of lines you should be looking for, there are a few important things to keep in mind. I personally believe, number one, I personally believe that lines don't carry over to New Game Plus. Now many people say that they do, and many argue that they don't carry over. So take it with a grain of salt. Do it with your best of your ability, with your what you can judge and what you think is the best thing. But for me, the best approach is to be careful and make sure you're always working towards lines after Futaba joins your team as the navigator. So when you or your party members level up, do not upgrade their low-level elemental spells for higher level ones. Having low-level spells are quite useful, as you can target enemy weaknesses without killing them, making it easier to grind for weakness exploitation lines from Futaba. Now number 3, when you are grinding for lines that involve status ailments, make sure to use a persona that knows the move Stagnant Air, as it increases the susceptibility for status ailments to be afflicted for all combatants on the field. Also make sure to make your teammates use a spell that doesn't do any damage, so they do get inflicted with a status ailment that turn. If you leave them to defend, no status ailments can affect them. Lastly, make sure to get the Death Arcana link for Confidant Tei Takemi in the clinic of the backstreets, the Yonganjaya backstreets, to rank 7. So this is because you want to buy the Invigorate 3 accessory for all your team members, so you can regenerate SP each turn. That way you can use moves such as Tarujaka or I forget, all those moves that increase attack, defense, whatever, moves that do not damage the enemy. So right now I'm going to be giving examples of lines that you can work towards listening to. So number 1, when you're starting a battle and if an enemy is weak, really weak, like lower compared to your level, there will be unique lines for the amount of enemies that you're fighting. So there will be for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 enemies on the field. Each one will have unique lines. That adds up to a total of 5 different unique lines right there. Number 2, now when you're starting a fight with a really strong enemy, you'll have a few lines mentioning that the enemy is really strong, and unique lines for how many enemies there are. So if you're fighting, again, like the previous example, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 strong enemies, each variation of that fight will have different lines. Number 3, when you ambush an enemy, there'll be a few different lines at the start of the battle, so make sure you listen to that one. Now when you get ambushed by enemies, you'll get a couple different lines along with lines for how many enemies attacked you, so there'll be a few of those to look out for. Now number 5 is when you try to escape a battle, you get a few lines for attempting to escape and actually escaping, and there's also one for failing to escape. Keep that in mind. Now number 6 is during a battle there are lines for baton passes, particularly how many times you baton pass. The max amount of times you can baton pass is 4 times, so there'll be unique lines for passing it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and 4 times. And also there are a couple lines for trying to baton pass to a person who already got a turn to baton pass. So it'll say, oh, he already had a turn, don't baton pass to him. So moving on to number 7, when you win matches, you can listen to a couple different victory lines as the screen, you go through that transition where it shows that fancy animation of experience points popping up or an item popping up, etc. In number 8 is during battles, you get lines for the amount of enemies left in battle after you take out a shadow. So initially there'll be 5 enemies, and then after you take out one, they'll say, oh, there's 4 enemies left, or 3, or 2, or lastly 1 left in battle. Number 9 is This is a big, there is a big list for each character in battle for having unique lines during battles when they are, when they miss an attack, or they dodge one, when they kill 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 different enemies at the same time. And there's also lines if a character gets a critical on an enemy, they knock them down, and finally for hitting a weakness on a downed enemy. So as you can see, these adds up to a lot of lines for each character. There's 8 characters, including Goro Akechi. You can generate a lot of lines if you're always working towards these. Now there are lines for each ailment in the game for each character, including ailments such as rage, hunger, despair, fear, brainwashed, silence, sleep, and being electrified, burned, and frozen. You also get lines for when each character's health goes below half, below 25%, and when they fall in battle. Number 11, during battle you can press L1 to bring up enemy weaknesses. There's a ton of lines that can be heard for what an enemy is weak to, resistant to, and can repel or drain from. There's also a couple lines for enemies that have no weaknesses or resistances. Number 12, now in battle, if you press R1, based on if you have already analyzed the enemy and know its weakness, you will automatically go into a persona in your party that can target the enemy weaknesses. There are several lines for when a weakness is known and when it's not known, so make sure to keep testing it out over and over in order to get this done. Okay, so the next one on the list is during negotiations with shadows, there's a line for a successful attempt, a line for a failed attempt, and a line for attempting to negotiate with a boss or a mini-boss enemy, which never usually works out. We know that. Now, number 14, after Futaba joins your team, every major story boss you fight from then on will have unique lines throughout the fight. So 2 to 3, lines as they change, as they start talking, whatever. Number 15 is, when you're fighting a treasure demon, there's one unique line, as it'll say, oh, that one's a special one, or that one's a unique one. And lastly, Futaba will also say stuff outside of battle, like being spotted by shadows, or seeing a locked chest, or finding a safe room, etc. Whatever you can hear outside of battle will also count towards it. There are unique lines, even I think chit chat but between the characters will also count towards this. I mean, don't quote me on that one, but those are lines that pop up on the screen, so I believe it should count. So just be vigilant, and this trophy shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now I'm going to be talking about enemies that you will face as shadows that can inflict status ailments on you. So these are the enemies you want to look out for. But before you go grinding for ailments, make sure to have a persona with the move Stagnant Air, as it increases the susceptibility of inflicting status ailments on all combatants. This is really crucial for the grind, guys. I've already mentioned it before, I'm just mentioning it again, so make sure to have a persona with Stagnant Air. Now the first enemy we'll look at is Incubus, and it can use the move Evil Touch, which causes fear on you and your teammates. So you can find Incubus in the first palace, but since you won't have Futaba in the first palace, you can grind. You can find these enemies in the early starting levels of Mementos, just the first few areas. The next enemy we'll look at is the Succubus, and it has the move Marine Careen that can cause brainwash. This is a status element you'll want to get out of the way with all your teammates, and again, this is another enemy you'll find in the starting areas of Mementos. It also has the move, I don't remember the exact name of the move, but it has the ability to reduce your defense and evasion, so make sure to grind out the lines for the reduction in defense and evasion as well. The next two enemies that we'll be looking at are Silky and Sandman. Now Silky can be found in the first few areas of Mementos, and Sandman you'll find it in, a little bit later as you go down the depths of Mementos. These two enemies are great for putting you to sleep. They have the move called Dormina, and they put you to sleep, and so make sure to use them to your advantage and get your teammates to be put to sleep, get that ailment out of the way. The next enemy is going to be Yaxini, and she can use Wage War to instill rage for you and your teammates. This is another ailment you want to look out for, and this will be in the second or third area of Mementos. You can find a lot of these enemies. The next enemy is Lamia, and she can use the move Ominous Words to inflict the ailment Despair, and you'll find her right after you beat Futaba's palace. You know, the next area of mementos opens up, and once you go down there, you'll find a lot of Lamia right there. The next enemy is Black Ooze, and it's a great enemy to grind the hunger ailment from. And you'll find the a ton of Black Ooze in the 5th palace, the Okumura Palace. And right after you beat the Okumura Palace, there's you know, the next area that you open in Mementos will also have a ton of Black Oozes. The next enemy that you want to look out for is Kaiwan, and it can make you and your teammates forget, which is another ailment. I mean, it says forget, but all it does is that when you get afflicted by this ailment, you'll just forget what you're doing, and you can't use your persona, and you won't be able to move. Now, Kaiwan can be found all over the Okumura Palace, and as with Black Ooze, you'll find Kaiwan a lot right after you beat the Okumura Palace and move on to the next Mementos area. The last enemy I want to be showing you is Narcissus, and she can use the move Nocturnal Flash that can cause dizziness. And you can find Narcissus a lot in the final palace, which is the 7th palace. Due to story reasons, I won't name the person's name, but it is the final palace you'll go in before the game ends. And you can also find Narcissus after you beat the 7th palace and move on to the next area of Mementos. Now, since I showed Narcissus as the last enemy for Ailments, I will show a battle example for when its move, the Nocturnal Flash, is used. And so here it is. All you want to do is constantly switch between your teammates in and out to inflict dizziness or any other ailment, you know, with other enemies, as it's being showed here, to make sure that you get the lines out of Futaba. Now, the last tip I can give you guys is once you get Goro Akechi for the 6th palace, you will join your team as a member. Make sure to get all the ailments on him, all the other stuff that I've mentioned throughout the game, because he will not become available as a team member after the 6th palace is completed. So as I'm stressing this, guys, once you get access to Goro Akechi as one of your team members, make sure to grind out all the ailments and everything you can think of for that specific character. And once you're done, you know, once you're done with him, you can grind the rest out within Mementos later on in the game before the game actually ends. So that's just the last tip I wanted to give you guys. Now, hopefully I explained it well enough for you guys so you can get a little bit of a gist of it, of what to do in order to get lines to pop up. And hopefully, you know, I was able to help you guys to get the trophy. It's not as hard as it was in Persona 4 Golden, where, you know, you had to get lines from Rosette, the navigator in that game. And most likely you should be able to get it right before you get to the final boss of the game. I got it literally 2 enemies before I hit the final boss, but it could vary between you guys, you know, for other people. But hopefully that does it. You know, this was a very much requested video by many of you, and hopefully I delivered. I'm not too sure what else I can say about this trophy. I mean, I can't get footage for every single element and this, you know, for every single character. It just takes too long. Rather, I thought I could just do a video where I can explain how to get the trophy, or how to make it easier to get the ailments and stuff like that. Get that stuff out of the way. But yeah, well, that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys found this video helpful, a like goes a long way to help me out. Also, consider subbing if you'd like to see more of my content. Your support is always greatly appreciated, guys. I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.